We think we know her. The pale face, the stiff ruff, the flaming red hair, an image so carefully crafted that it became a kind of armor. But when you look more closely, when you move past the official portraits and let the historical record speak in its quieter voice, a very different woman begins to emerge. I have spent years studying the lives of women from other centuries. There is something particular about working with old engravings, faded inventories, and diplomatic letters, finding the human detail inside the formal record. I use artificial intelligence tools to reconstruct those images, to adjust the light, shift the perspective, zoom into a corner of a canvas that most eyes never reach. It allows me to enter moments that were frozen in time, and sometimes it changes everything about what I thought I knew. That is certainly true of Elizabeth I. Born on the 7th of September, 1533, at Greenwich Palace on the bank of the Thames, she arrived as a disappointment. Her father, Henry VIII, had already discarded one wife and broken with Rome in his hunger for a son. Instead, he got a daughter. Her mother, Anne Boleyn, would be beheaded before Elizabeth turned 3 years old. What followed was one of the most extraordinary lives in the history of women and in the history of power. Picture a room in Whitehall Palace on a winter morning. The fire has been lit early. The air is thick with the smell of beeswax candles and something sweet. Sugar, perhaps, carried in on a silver dish. A woman sits at her dressing table while her ladies of the bedchamber work in near silence around her. She is perhaps in her 50s now. Her natural red hair is mostly gone. This is the first surprise most people never expect. Elizabeth I was nearly bald. In 1562, she nearly died of smallpox. She survived, but the illness left its mark. Her skin was pitted and scarred, and she lost most of her hair. From that point on, she wore wigs. She owned dozens of them, all made to mimic the red hair she had once had naturally. The portraits commissioned after that illness did not show the scars. Artists understood the rules of survival at the Tudor court. And so the image of smooth, eternal youth was maintained, decade after decade, even as the real woman grew older underneath it. The white face you see in those portraits is the second surprise. That was not her natural complexion. It was a paste called ceruse, a mixture of white lead and vinegar, applied thick every morning. It covered the smallpox scars. It also, over time, poisoned the skin it was meant to protect, causing further damage that required more ceruse to conceal. It is a quietly devastating detail. The very thing she used to project power was slowly harming her. Consider how much of what we accept as the image of a powerful woman is, in reality, a performance constructed from necessity, not from vanity, but from survival. And then there is the wardrobe. At her death in 1603, over 2,000 gowns were recorded in her wardrobe inventories. Her favorite color was black, a costly dye that set off her jewels like no other could. She also wore white, silver, gold, and deep Tudor red. One surviving gown, now known as the Bacton altar cloth, is made from Italian cloth of silver, embroidered with cochineal dye from Mexico and indigo from India. The silver thread alone, the historians tell us, would have cost as much as a substantial house. Under sumptuary law, cloth of silver could only be worn by members of the royal family. The dress was a statement of sovereignty woven directly into fabric. Elizabeth was one of the most educated women of her century. By 13, she spoke French and Italian. By the time she was queen, she was fluent in at least 6 or 7 languages: French, Italian, Spanish, Latin, Greek, Welsh, and English. When the Venetian ambassador Giovanni Carlo Scaramelli visited her in 1603, they spoke together in Italian. He wrote afterwards that each language she used appeared to be her native tongue. She had not been educated for queenship. After her mother's execution, Elizabeth had been declared illegitimate and pushed down the line of succession. Her tutors shaped her for scholarship, not statecraft. She was given a humanist education, the kind usually reserved for the most promising young men of the court. She studied classical literature, theology, rhetoric. She was tutored by Roger Ascham, one of the finest scholars of the age, who later wrote that her mind had no womanly weakness. He meant it as praise. She had simply learned to think. That intelligence had a practical edge that could turn cold when needed. When her own advisor, Robert Dudley, found himself under suspicion after his wife, Amy Robsart, was discovered dead at the bottom of a staircase in 1560, her neck broken, Elizabeth kept her distance. She never married him. She never publicly cleared him. She held the ambiguity carefully, like a card she preferred not to play. The mystery remains unsolved, but she survived it, which was the point. She also kept a personal advisor named John Dee, mathematician, astronomer, alchemist, and astrologer, in her regular company. She believed in his calculations. In an age when the boundary between science and magic had not yet been drawn clearly, this was not unusual, but it speaks to something in her, a woman who trusted evidence and also trusted possibility. She had a famous weakness for sweets. Sugar was a luxury in Tudor England, a sign of wealth, and Elizabeth consumed it constantly. Marchpane, candied violets, sweet wines. She was said to have owned up to 2,000 pairs of gloves, many of them scented. But the sugar had consequences. By her later years, Elizabeth's teeth were almost entirely black, and several were missing. Foreign ambassadors noticed. André Hirol de Mace, sent from the French King Henry IV, recorded his audience with Elizabeth in careful detail. He noted that her teeth were very yellow and unequal, and that on the left side there were fewer than on the right. Many were missing, he wrote, so that one could not easily understand her when she spoke quickly. And then, in the same breath, he added that her figure was fair and tall and graceful, and that she maintained her dignity humbly and with grace. She was aware of the impression she made. She compensated for it constantly. She feared dentists, which was perhaps rational given the tools of the age, and so the decay continued unchecked. It is said that when one tooth became unbearably painful, the Bishop of London offered himself as a demonstration, having his own tooth pulled first to show her it was survivable. Even queens could be afraid of ordinary things. There is something almost tender about this detail. A woman who commanded fleets and parliaments, who spoke 7 languages and outmaneuvered kings, sitting rigid with dread in front of a dentist's chair. By her final years, the portraits had become something quite different from reality. They showed a face that never aged, a gown that gleamed, a hand that was perpetually young and white. The real Elizabeth, Sir Walter Raleigh once observed, was a lady whom time had surprised. She was 69 years old when she died, the oldest English monarch in history at that point, breaking a nearly 300-year-old record. The performance had outlasted the body that sustained it. Everyone expected her to marry. Parliament insisted. Her advisors insisted. Foreign kings proposed. Philip II of Spain, Eric XIV of Sweden, Archduke Charles of Austria, and 2 French princes. She turned them all down. She managed the negotiations with extraordinary skill, keeping suitors interested for years without ever committing. In 1566, when Parliament formally attempted to force her hand, she refused. She told them she had already married. She had married her kingdom. She is the only English queen to have remained unmarried for her entire reign. 8 kings before her had also died unmarried, but for a woman to hold power alone, without a husband to legitimize or limit that power, was extraordinary. It remained extraordinary for centuries after her. The title Virgin Queen was not simply a biographical fact. It was a political strategy. By remaining unmarried, she remained undivided. No husband could claim precedence over her decisions. No alliance could pull England sideways without her consent. And yet, the emotional cost of that choice was not invisible. Throughout her life, the one name that returned again and again was Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester, her childhood companion, the man whose quarters at court were placed directly beside her own. She was fond of him in a way she never entirely concealed. When he finally married another woman, Lettice Knollys, Elizabeth was said to have treated his new wife with a contempt she rarely showed anyone. It was one of the few times the mask slipped, and the grief underneath it showed through. She also kept her Catholic cousin Mary, Queen of Scots, imprisoned for 19 years, a woman who represented everything Elizabeth refused to be: impulsive in marriage, dependent on others, destabilizing to her own throne. Mary was eventually executed at Fotheringhay Castle in February 1587, after evidence emerged that she had been corresponding with conspirators from her prison cell. Elizabeth signed the warrant. She also wept after she did it, according to those who were there. Both things were true. In her final speech, Elizabeth I referred to her subjects as all my husbands, my good people. It was a phrase that collapsed the distance between the personal and the political, between the woman who had chosen not to be a wife and the ruler who had made her people her life's work instead. She died on the 24th of March, 1603, at Richmond Palace, age 69. She had reigned for 44 years. The Elizabethan era she left behind was one of the great flowerings of English culture. Shakespeare writing, Francis Drake sailing, the Church of England stabilized, a national identity taking shape. But when we study the women of that era, a different picture emerges. The sumptuary laws told women what they could wear. The law of coverture meant that upon marriage, a woman's legal identity was absorbed into her husband's. Women did not vote, did not hold public office, did not own property independently in most cases, and yet here was a woman who had spent 44 years at the center of all of it, managing, deciding, refusing, enduring. The black teeth and the lead makeup and the wigs, these are not small details. They are the record of a woman who spent decades constructing a version of herself strong enough to be believed, who understood that image was power, and that power in her century was fragile for women in a way it rarely was for men, who survived a childhood of declared illegitimacy, a teenage encounter with a predatory stepfather, imprisonment in the Tower of London as a young woman, and the constant threat of assassination as a queen. What is remarkable is not that she was exceptional. What is remarkable is what it cost her to be so, and how clearly, in the historical record, you can see her paying that cost year after year in silence. Much has changed since the 16th century. And some things, the record quietly suggests, have changed less than we imagine. The women who came after Elizabeth, in every century, in every country, understood something she had understood first, that to be taken seriously, you must first be seen. And that being seen on your own terms is itself a form of power. She wore her sovereignty like cloth of silver, visible from a distance, woven from ingredients gathered from the farthest corners of the world, and worth more than most people would ever know. If there is another woman, another time, another palace or city or moment in history you would like to see reconstructed, leave it in the comments. Every life that was lived deserves to be remembered.